Two kids discover a crashed U.S. government satellite near Piedmont, Utah, and carry it back to their town. When the town's residents open it, they let forth a lethal microbe that the U.S. Army eventually came to refer to as Andromeda. The Army's Biological Defense Unit sends a team to retrieve the satellite, but the team members contract the disease and perish. General George Manchek, the squad's leader, notices the video footage the retrieval team took and their peculiar deaths. He then calls in Wildfire, a group of 5 scientists called in when high-level bioterror threats arise in the United States. Dr. Jeremy Stone, the team's creator, leads the investigation into Piedmont. They recover the satellite and save 2 survivors of the Andromeda outbreak, a colicky baby and a crazy 60-year-old guy. The Wildfire crew starts examining the downed satellite and the 2 survivors in a remote underground laboratory. A little nuclear reactor with water cooling powers the lab. A 15-minute self-destruct sequence would be initiated automatically in the case of a contamination breach. However, Major Bill Keene, identified by the odd man hypothesis, is the only one who can deactivate the sequence using his pass key and right thumbprint if it is determined that the activated sequence is not necessary. In order to start analyzing the Andromeda strain, the scientists take a sample out of the satellite. When they first find out that the microbe has a lot of buckyballs, the crew thinks Andromeda is a result of highly developed synthetic biology. Considering that Andromeda lacks both DNA and amino acids, the team believes it may also be extraterrestrial in origin. The group learns that Andromeda is an airborne microbe that enters the bloodstream through the lungs, coagulates the blood in the body, and causes a blood clot in the brain that results in death in 10 seconds. The blood clot leaves its survivors mad, violent, and suicidal. It is discovered that the 2 Piedmont survivors had acidic blood, which prevented them from being impacted by Andromeda. Subsequent analysis shows that the cell is immune to every antibiotic now in use. Reporter Jack Nash for Cable News learns about some of the happenings surrounding the downed satellite and Andromeda. Chuck Beater, the director of the NSA, employs Colonel Ferris, General Manchek's assistant, in his investigation to carry out homicides in order to keep the public from learning about Andromeda. As Nash visits one of the makeshift Army outposts undergoing quarantine, he observes how Andromeda is spreading through all kinds of transportation. Because of his presence at the outpost, he becomes a target for assassination, but he escapes from Ferris and his followers. In the meantime, a government organization hatches a plan to contain the microbe for potential future applications, most likely including weapons. General Manchek takes intentional measures to resolve the problem by cutting off the Wildfire team's communication with the outside of the facility. Nevertheless, Jack Nash succeeds in informing Dr. Stone about Project Scoop, a covert initiative that General Manchek and the government had concealed. Manchek divulges the truth about the satellite when Wildfire questions him violently and makes him believe that Andromeda is posing a threat to everyone on Earth. One of many attempts to look inside a singularity, or wormhole, that has appeared inexplicably in the solar system is Project Scoop. The satellite was sent expressly to gather biological samples, but when it got closer to the wormhole, it broke down and crashed back to Earth. The lethal agent was released when it was picked up. The U.S. President approves a limited tactical nuclear attack on the quarantine zone with the goal of totally destroying and irradiating Andromeda in an effort to neutralize the situation. Upon learning of this, the Wildfire team discovers that they neglected to check the test findings for irradiating Andromeda. They discover that when exposed to radiation, the bacterium expands exponentially. Before the pilot fires the nuclear missile, the Wildfire team notifies the president, and the airstrike is cancelled. Nevertheless, the pilot claims a problem with the aircraft's controls as the fighter jet keeps flying above the quarantine region. The president and the Wildfire team see the disintegration of all plastic parts of the airplane, including the pilot's visor, through a video stream, and they are shocked and horrified. Rearmed, the nuclear missile explodes, irradiating the quarantine region, and the fighter jet and missile collide with the Earth. Upon reviewing the accident tape, the team discovers that Andromeda has undergone another mutation, enabling her to absorb plastic and use it as a carbon source. In order to stop Andromeda before it reaches Las Vegas, the closest city to the quarantine zone with an international airport, the wildfire team is continuing testing as the virus grows and mutates into more virulent forms, taking host in anything from mammals and reptiles to the bird population. Additional research indicates that Andromeda is, in fact, a sulfur-based bacterium. A series of bacteriophage studies show that Andromeda can be killed by a single virus. But after several failed attempts to speak with this phage, the wildfire team came up with the theory that Andromeda may talk to each other among its various components via an unidentified method. By the time the team realizes that Andromeda's cell wall contains a binary code encoded on buckyballs containing potassium and rubidium atoms, they believe Andromeda is a messenger based on the messenger theory. A bitmap image of a symbol with interlocking triangles and the ASCII-encoded words Bacillus infernus were included in the material, along with the 6-digit number 739,528. The bacterium known as Bacillus infernus is restricted to the thermal vents. President Scott was supporting the hotly debated thermal vent mining sector at the time, and it was anticipated that the mining would destroy the bacteria. In order to start evaluating the bacteria's effects on Andromeda, Wildfire asks for samples of it. Tests using Bacillus infernus show that Andromeda's sulfur structure makes it easy for the bacterium to devour and destroy it. The Wildfire team starts cultivating the bacteria in big quantities in culture vats with the goal of sanitizing a quarantine area by spraying the culture liquid over it. Dr. Stone speculates that Andromeda may have delayed its attack until after the nuclear warhead's launching sequence was interrupted, based on the video footage of the downed fighter jet. This suggests that colonies of Andromeda may have thought to attack the jet in order to force the warhead to explode, which would have accelerated their own growth. In an effort to stop Andromeda from communicating, the crew starts destroying the remaining Andromeda samples in the lab. Colonel Ferris uses blackmail to get Dr. Barton to save a single sample container as part of a government plot to preserve Andromeda cultures for use in the future. After that, the bacteria break out of their container, activating the self-destruct mechanism and setting off the lab's contamination breach sensor. In addition, the self-destruct procedure sets off the emergency lights to flash, which sets off Chow's photosensitive epilepsy and leads him to accidentally smash the complex's self-destruct control panel on the lab level. Keen chooses to use the primary exhaust vent in the lab to climb to the control panel on the level above, because the self-destruct procedure has rendered the elevators inoperable. But because Andromeda escaped, the pipes and other parts of the vent have started to deteriorate. Keen is hanging over the radioactive water at the foot of the vent when the pipe he is climbing abruptly bends. Keen throws his badge to Stone before he falls. With the knowledge that Keen's right thumb is also necessary to stop the self-destruct sequence, Cho gives his life to go into the radioactive water and amputate Keen's thumb in Stone's place. With only seconds to spare, Stone reaches the control panel with Keen's thumb and badge, deactivating the sequences. All traces of Andromeda are eventually eliminated by the bacteria being dropped. Secret assassinations take place of Colonel Ferris and General Manchek while the surviving members of the Wildfire team attend the funerals of their departed colleagues. In an interview with Jack Nash, Dr. Stone discloses to the public certain details of the occurrences. In the last scene, the Andromeda sample that has been rescued is placed inside a BSL-4 compartment that has the access code 739528 and is kept in a container with an interlocking triangle sign on it. Director Beater keeps an eye on the activity on his office computer. After, the camera pans out to show that Andromeda has been kept in storage aboard a space station circling the planet. The conclusion raises an ontological conundrum regarding the origin of the cell by implying that the sample kept on board the space station is what started the epidemic in the future that required bringing the organism back to the present via the wormhole. The conclusion also suggests that Andromeda was capable of rational thought, since the outbreak of Andromeda in the future occurred following the complete destruction of the bacteria Bacillus infernus, which was Andromeda's only means of extinction. As a result, Andromeda was able to avoid unnecessary risks by waiting for the right opportunity.